fact really warn you about these people who are out there right now on the interweb and everywhere, who are now being identified as spiritual narcissists. So let's talk about it. Who are the spiritual narcissists, and why does it matter that you stay away from them? Right? So who they are, these are spiritual teachers and leaders who feel like they have it all figured out. Right? Who think that what they think spiritually is more valid than what you think, and they're really interested in putting you down for the way that you think. I had a client talk to me a bunch of years ago about someone that she was going to see. This is when I was living between LA and New York, and this person was in LA. And she was talking to me about going to this, it was sort of like a chiropractic type of thing. But it was really like energy work and all these other things, supposedly. And she was working with someone who was most definitely a spiritual narcissist. And it was like this person was trying to use their power over my client to guilt them. They were actually afraid of their healer. And if they complained and said that if my client said, you know, they weren't really seeing any results, that healer would go off and completely manipulate her in saying that if she had tried harder, if she worked more, then she would be getting the results. And I was so pissed about that whole experience. Now, spiritual narcissists just hide behind their spirituality. And actually, Dr. Neo tells a story of being with her before she left her ex-boyfriend, who was a major spiritual narcissist, which is how she knows about it, is that he said to her, "No one will ever believe you. I'm spiritual and I work for a nonprofit." Even though he was like absolutely abusive to her. But he knew it. He knew he was hiding behind what he did for a living. So he was like above reproach. And listen, this is similar to if you look at things that have happened within churches where priests are abusing children, boys, whatever it is. There's a level of spiritual narcissism there too. The sense that they're above the law and that the laws of the land do not apply to them is very narcissistic, right? So the spiritual narcissists, they just want to control. Same control that a regular narcissist wants in life, but the way that they do it is through their knowledge. And a lot of these people really do become leaders. And they're people who have no tolerance for other people's beliefs, systems, right? The only truth is their truth. Like, you don't know anything. And here's the problem with spiritual narcissists. It's very confusing. Because a lot of times they're talking about, like, we're all one big happy family, the human family, like, we're all in it together. But they do what they can to keep you in line by making you feel less than, by embarrassing you, by calling you out. And I see this not even with just spirituality. I see this in the wellness space as well, with coaching, with even super famous people. I don't know, like getting lost in their own fame, perhaps, is part of it. But there's something really important for you guys watching this, if you're on a spiritual path, that you get really clear that you are the boss of you. And when you resonate with someone, hey, I put myself out there as an expert because I am, right? But I certainly, sure as hell, have no idea what's right for you, or think that you need to think like I do exactly, or you're incorrect. I have no desire to have power over you. I really just want you to have a great life, and that's the truth. So the narcissists want to keep the connection so that their ego keeps getting fed, right? Listen, if you're really actually an evolved person, what does being evolved means? It means you are on your own evolutionary path. All of us becoming, hopefully, the best versions of ourselves. And nobody knows what that is for you but you. So if you find people, I have all these people who've influenced my work, but those are influences because they've done something in their lives because they're smart and have walked this evolutionary path on their own. But I've never been drawn to someone, even a leader, sharing their wisdom from their experiences, which is different than basically saying, I have the magic. I feel like these spiritual narcissistic leaders, they want you to think that they have the answers for you, but also that they hold the magic.
The spiritual narcissist is truly the wolf in sheep's clothing. Spiritual narcissists are more cerebral, which means they use their intellect, their mind, their intelligence, and their academic achievements to impress an audience. They may come across as being sensitive and introverted, but they carry an air of superiority, fake modesty, and a holier-than-thou attitude. They are extremely close-minded and hypocritical, and will often use hyper-religiosity, rigid beliefs, and dogma as methods of control. Their version of spirituality will be performance-based.
The communal narcissist is the one who constantly talks about their good works, constantly points out how they're great listeners and they are so empathic and they are so wonderful and look what I've done and I'm a pillar of the community and look how everyone loves me, and it's kind of grandiose, but they get their ego stroked by doing community service, and but they talk about it all the time. They are constantly, talking about what a pillar of the community they are and how they help all these people, and they will corner people at parties and tell them all the good works that they have done. That's how you know you're dealing with a communal narcissist, because here's the deal, guys. Somebody who's really doing communal work and is not narcissistic doesn't talk about it. You do good deeds and you don't talk about it. It's kind of like, how do I explain it? It's like, you don't get your ego stroked by doing good deeds. You do good deeds because you want to do good deeds, and you don't need to tell anybody else because that's between you and your creator. So that's a communal narcissist, is somebody who presents to the outside that they are this wonderful, normal, happy-go-lucky, great, wonderful, giving person, but in private they are tearing their family into shreds.
Spiritual narcissists may start their own cult, revolving more around strict practices and adherence to repetitive rituals, rather than inspiring others to develop their own connection to the divine. Whether pertaining to yoga, meditation, church denomination, or any other spiritual group setting, all that matters is that they can be seen as a spiritual leader or some sort of guru. Pathological narcissists may not have to be in an official position of power within an organization, but will often use religion to spiritualize or justify their abuse and control of their own children or family.
Fuck you. So, but what'd you get triggered? Well, fuck you. But what'd you get triggered? Well, fuck you. Well, fuck you. How are you going to create an enlightened civilization if the shape of this letter pisses you off? Deodorant is okay as well. Thank you. You're all bastards. You're all selfish. What about that woman in Saudi Arabia? What about her? She chose that experience. What about her? She chose that experience.
When you point out something to someone, it says, well, you're judging me for who I am. I will train you to see properly. I just felt his heart when I heard the news, and I was like, oh, Brent. So, yes, it was a bit of an inconvenient timing because the article had just come out in terms of, our sort of image to the world. The thing is that I'm never offended when people say that I'm starting a cult or anything, because, well, I don't even really know what it means. Like, it has no context for me. It feels so empty and meaningless. Like, okay, great, yeah, we're a cult. It doesn't change what we are. We are what we are. You can call it a cult, but you could also call it a group consciousness in the making. You could call it a social memory complex. And part of becoming a social memory complex is that we grow closer and closer together, and that we awaken, and that certain individuals will be so in resonance with each other in a certain vibration of understanding the universe and consciousness, that this resonance will naturally gravitate all these entities to each other, and it will literally start to blend the electromagnetic field. That I was just supposed to be one of the most efficient and versatile spiritual teachers on the planet. But now that that's the case, not trying to sound arrogant, but it's true. Now that that's the case, it expands my vision even more to be of service, and that would heavily distract and detriment the purpose of me being here. So now for me, it's enough to simply know that that's what I'm capable of. To simply know that that's where I come from, that that's who I am, and that that's what's actually possible. So I need to execute. I don't need to execute it in order to feel good. I don't need to prove it to anyone or myself to feel good about who I actually am. So now I accept the fact that at certain timings, things will be unlocked to me as it is relevant and as it will continue to serve my focus here, which from my soul level is the most important thing. It's not more important that I'm able to teleport and bilocate and levitate and move mountains at will. That's not what's most important to me, because my soul knows that's easy. It's not hard at all. It's absolutely easy. It's just like in a dream. But I'm blocking myself because, and many of you are, because that's not the reason that I'm here. That's not the purpose of me being here.
So
You've got the same game I have. You don't want to know what I know?
I do.
Authenticity becomes a facade.
That went right over my head. I'm sorry. Really.
Okay.
Say it.
So if you become attached to the identity of authenticity, authenticity becomes the facade.
Everybody got that but me still. I still don't get that. Sorry. If I become attached to the idea of authenticity. It's over my head. Sorry.
Authenticity becomes the image you present to the world, but it's an image all the same.
Meaning I'm inauthentic?
We will begin this transmission by reminding everyone that the title is the Earth Flat? Now, it is interesting, it is fascinating that a subject such as this that occurred in your society so long ago should come up again at this time and seem to be spreading so prevalently throughout your society for those who are in any way, shape, or form interested in such subjects. It is all over your internet and being discussed with great seriousness by many people. So, there are two parts to this response. You can always trace the emotion back to the belief and the definition that you're buying into. The belief in the definition generates the emotion, generates the thoughts, generates the behavior. You can trace all of them back to the definition. The definition is the blueprint of the house. So, if your blueprint is off kilter, meaning full of negative beliefs, your house cannot stand strong. But if you find out where the blueprint needs to be corrected and correct it, bring it back into alignment, then building from that blueprint will make your house stand strong.
And is there use of something called the word salad?
What is it? Word salad. That's right. Let's talk about it. So the official definition of word salad is a confused or unintelligible mixture of seemingly random words and phrases. So if you've ever been involved with a narcissist, then you might have felt like you didn't really know how to communicate. I know that I did, and quite honestly, I communicate for a living, and I'm pretty good at it. But when I was dealing with a narcissist, I was often left frustrated because of the fact that he didn't understand what I was saying to him on purpose. It was incredibly frustrating for me. And then in addition to that, there would be manipulation and crap that would lead us to word salad.
Never do the thing that I just completely, totally did. You see this happening, it's playing out a lot as the personality disorder is being disseminated through the culture. You will see this happening a lot. You'll find people, you've seen it in the news in the last 6 months, being caught red-handed doing something, and then in their defense, either in court or during interviews, saying, I would never do that. They just stole somebody else's chocolate milkshake, they guzzled it down, they still have the chocolate around their lips and dripping down their chin, and they get caught, and they're like, how do you defend yourself? And they go, what? Steal the chocolate milkshake? I would never do that. It's on your face right now. I would never steal somebody's chocolate milkshake. I'd never do that. There's countless examples of people doing and saying this. What is this? It's a split. It's a splitting away from the shameful act. So the covert or fragile or vulnerable narcissist actually feels a ton of shame. They're constantly living in shame for their grandiose fantasies. They're like, I have these grandiose fantasies, and then the inner critic, or superego, depending on how you want to define it, the superego, the great judge, the inner critic inside of them, is inflamed and goes, you fool, you don't deserve those things, look at yourself, you're so blah, 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 blah. And then their state goes down and they feel like shit. So they're constantly doing this.
Just discussing the Lion's Gate, answering all your questions. I have a channeled message that has been coming through over the past 5 minutes. Namaste. Okay, let's get right to their channeled message that came through just a few minutes ago. We call them, the humans like to call things and define things and name things. There are many races of Lyrans, but this specific race is called the Adonai. That is the soul group that they come from. I will say that and spell that for you. The Christ-conscious collective beings. Prior to incarnation, the soul group and soul stream is called Adonai. Particularly Lyra was where they started. And I'll give you a little bit of history, actually, before we go into their message, because that's just what they're saying is more appropriate so that you can understand the galactic history of this soul group. They came through the Lyran star system, and Lyra was interesting. It had many stars within. This whole star system full of planets, and there was one specific one called Avalon. That is the human word. There are no human words that can be adequately translated from the Lyran light languages very well.
And that they are the only person who knows. And actually, if you just believed a little bit more, you would understand that what they're saying is the truth.
Religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs can be used against you as a weapon, as another form of abuse. And it's something that's not talked about too often, but you see this happening over and over again. Student-teacher sort of dynamic with this person, because this person is unhealthy and sick. Right? And they're using this belief system in a very twisted psychological way to gaslight you, to make you doubt your reality, to make you doubt the fact that this person is abusing you, right? And then to play in on your spiritual and religious beliefs so that then you feel like a bad person, right? If you don't go along with what they're saying. And that'll happen. It'll be like a slow conditioning usually, and they'll slowly get you to agree with them on certain things, and these all might sound logically sound, right? But you can tell there's some sort of ulterior motive. They're trying to get you to agree, and the more that you agree, then the more they can take that and then just flip it right back at you.
Off or showing disgust toward people who aren't compliant to their version of the one true way. Spiritual narcissists may act enraged if you question their supreme knowledge of spirituality, and they'll use their interpretations of a spiritual text to make you feel inferior, stupid, or less than spiritual. Methods of control used by the spiritual narcissist is shaming, shunning, controlling, brainwashing, coercion.
Them humiliating you. because someone who's a real leader would never do that. Bullying, embarrassing you in some way, judging the crap out of everyone else. That is one indication that it's easier for you to see. Being like a regular narcissist, meaning they're preoccupied with themselves all the time, that this is what they do. This is, it's all about them, just like it is with a regular narcissist. They really think they're super special the same way that narcissists do. But again, the difference is that they think they're super special and that you are not. So this is a really clear indicator. They're also very competitive. So rather than wanting you to have a great bunch of people influencing you, they feel threatened by that. So if you are working with someone, whether it's a energy worker or an acupuncturist or a coach or a therapist, if they feel threatened by the other modalities that you're doing in your life, if they feel the need to put them down, that is not a secure person. And that is definitely an indication of narcissism, right? Give people skills so they can live their best lives, but not a spiritual narcissist, because they want it to be about all them. And this is how, in some ways, cults happen. So think about the dynamic between cult leaders and cult followers. It's the same thing as what is being repeated, as I call them, like repeating realities. Something is being repeated. You have the dominant bully pretending like I'll take care of you, but they create these massively codependent relationships. They love an empath. These spiritual narcissists, wow, they can find the empaths in the group anywhere. Oh, and they love an empath, because if you're empathic, if you are an actual empath, your boundaries are probably not fantastic. You're very influenced by how other people feel. And spiritual narcissists, just like any other narcissist, they have like a GPS. So if you haven't been victimized in your young life, you don't have that imprint. You they may not act that way towards you. So when someone is a predator, the way that narcissists are, right, they find your weakness, oh my God, and they just exploit the crap out of it. So you've got to be mindful. Like, it feels good to have someone's approval, and especially if it's someone that you look up to. I find this happens a lot in the world of yogis. That the world of yoga, there are, I'm not going to say a lot, I'm just going to say I know stories of people and in empowerment. I mean, not a hotbed of mental health, I can tell you right now, with the people who are out there leading. So just like with a doctor that you go see, a gynecologist, a dentist, anybody, you have to make your own decision about who these people are. And I would always say to my clients, because my clients, of course, my psychotherapy clients for many years when I had that kind of a practice, they would want to bestow magical qualities on me as if I had the magic. And I would always say to them, I don't have the magic. I'm simply holding up the mirror so you can see your own magic. Right? Because I never wanted clients, of course, to be addicted to me, because that would be me failing, actually, not me succeeding. So part of it is for you looking at who are you drawn to. You know, your whole job is to become your own guru and do what works for you. So maybe that's why this is on my mind, and maybe that's why I wanted to talk about it today. But I really wanted you guys to be mindful of this, because it's something that I've seen the damage that someone can do. Someone that you look up to, someone that you come to care about, someone that, and really so much of the time, of course, you're having a transference to this person from another narcissist in your life. It's like, this is not just happening. We become vulnerable for a reason. You have to make your own decision about who these people are and really look at what they're saying and see, does it resonate with you? You got to be in touch enough with your own body and with what you're learning, because we know this about narcissists. They need that narcissistic supply. So they're basically sucking the energy out of regular people, right? And they're definitely, as I said before, they're definitely have this skill to be able to find your weakness and basically exploit that and your openness. And so I'm not saying don't be open. I'm saying be open yet cautious. Do research. Go online. See if anyone is talking and saying bad things about this person online. And listen, again, we take some of that with a grain of salt, because you're always going to have bitter people who hate everyone, right? That's just life on the internet. But be mindful that there are people out there who are really sick, and they're leaders, you know? So, and then there's also people out there who are really amazing, and they're leaders too. But I also know, because I've been a therapist for 20 years, that there's nobody who knows more about what is right for you than you. So empower yourself to dial into your own wisdom. And sure, read books and find other people, like I've done in my whole life in my career, and I'm still doing it, who are original thinkers.